crafters! Welcome back to my channel Because I'm Crafty. My name's Caitlin and today I have a DIY for you. So there's two different ways that you can do this DIY. You can do it for a kind of man version or a more masculine version, or you can do a more feminine version. Today I'm going to do the more masculine version because I was trying to find a lot of DIYs or Christmas gift ideas or just gift ideas in general for guys, and they're really hard to find, and I was having a hard time thinking of ideas myself. So I will post the inspiration picture that I found. I've seen it on Pinterest, I've seen it on other sites that I was scrolling through as well. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make a watch or bracelet holder depending on which way that you do it, but there's many different ways that you can personalize it to the person that you want to gift it to. But today I'm going to make the more masculine watch version style. So there are a few things that you need, but a lot of them I'm sure you have in your stash from different projects that you've done in the past. It does not take a lot of materials at all. So one thing that you do need is batting. This just gives a little bit of cushion to the roll. This I got at the dollar store for $1.50, and there's a piece that is 19 by 21 inches. So I'm going to use a little piece of that, not very much. You're going to need a paper towel roll or some kind of roll that looks like this. It could be from gift wrapping paper, something like that if you want a little bit more sturdy. And you can cut it down to size, whatever you like. You're going to need some ribbon or some cording. I got some suede jewelry craft cord from the dollar store. Depending on the style that you want it and how you want it to look, you're going to need something to hang it with. You can maybe use a chain too. You're going to need something to cut your fabric with, something to measure with, and of course your fabric to cover the roll with. And you're going to need a little bit of sewing if you want to do the pre-step of sewing your batting to your fabric. It's not completely necessary, but it does just hold it together a little bit more nicely, and to sew your fabric edge together as well. So it's a super quick DIY, so let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to do is measure your roll so you can find out how much fabric and how much batting you need to cut. So this one is 11 inches long with a diameter of 1.5 inches and a circumference of like 5.25 inches. Yeah. But when you cut your fabric, you want it to be a lot longer than your roll because you want to stuff the excess ends inside, and that way you don't have to finish off the edges. You can, that's kind of a personal thing if you want to. So instead of just 11, I think I want to have at least an extra 2 inches on each end. So that takes me to 15 inches. You can cut it whatever scrap you have, cut it to how you want. So I'm going to cut that same size for my batting. So I'm going to, for this paper towel roll, cut it 15 inches long by, this was 5.25, so I need to add my seam allowance. A 1/4 inch seam allowance should be enough for each side. So that's 5 3/4 around. Plus the batting's going to take up some space, so let's cut it to 6 inches. That way we have enough to go all the way around. Your cording can come later depending on how high or low you want it. So this you don't need to cut right away. You can kind of wait until you're finished and then hang it however you want. I've seen some pictures on Pinterest as well of cutting some smaller pieces and kind of layering like them tiered down, which is kind of cool. So just think about that when you're making this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my fabric piece. This is some leftover flannel from last Christmas when I made some PJ pants for my boyfriend. And I think made some infinity scarves with some lace on it. So I'm just going to kind of follow the plaid pattern and measure out my fabric as I go. And I'm just going to tilt the camera down a bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing. so there's our piece. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew it all together in a tube, like so, right sides together. So I'm actually going to pin my flannel together first because I have a pattern that I would like to match so that it looks a little bit more professional. I'm going to pin it together first so I can make sure that I get as many of my lines matched up as possible. And then I'll pin my batting around it after. Okay, so now I've got my tube pinned and ready. I'm going to sew that at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I can fit my tube inside. So I've got my 1/4 inch seam allowance sewn just with a normal straight stitch, and now I'm going to turn it right sides out. Good line matching so far. Hope you can see that. It's a little bit dark, but I promise you they look pretty good actually. I'm surprised it didn't move more. But we'll see how the rest of it looks. A little bit tricky to turn with the thickness, but not too bad. Yeah, pretty much all of those are matched up like really, really well. Nice, you can barely tell there's a seam there. It's pretty cool. So now I'm just kind of pushing it open with my hands a little bit so I can try and get the paper towel roll inside. You might have to kind of stretch it over a bit. This will be tricky to start, but once you get it in there, it should be easier as you go. Just kind of wiggle it, and push it against your stomach to help push it through. And then once you get it in, I'm trying to make sure it's not twisted. Make sure your seam looks pretty straight along its edge. And you want to make sure that both ends are even. So right now there's still a little bit extra on this side than this side. So I'm going to push it down a little bit more. That seems about right. Just kind of pull it so it's nice and flat. And since I do have a striped print going on, I just want to make sure that it looks pretty straight and that it's not twisted on it. If you have a fairly tight fit, of your fabric, there should be no need to glue it or anything to hold it in place, but again, depending on your fabric. But I think that looks pretty good, just kind of smoothing it out to make sure there's no lumps or bumps inside of the batting. It's kind of like a little candy almost. So now you're just going to take those ends and you're going to push them inside. So if you have enough fabric to go on the inside, you don't see any of the paper towel roll, so you won't even know that it's in there. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's a little bit dark, I do apologize. So once you have your tube all prepared, you can take whatever thing you're using to hang it with and measure out how long you want it to hang. So I've just got some suede jewelry craft cord stuff. It's just a black version. If you're doing a more feminine one, it would probably be really pretty with some like gold chain or something. Or you could take multiples of these and kind of braid them together. However you want. I think I'm going to double this. But kind of base it like that. I think that's how I want it to go. It's kind of a double strand and I think it should be long enough to go through and have enough to hang. So I'm just going to thread it through first. See if I can thread it through all the way. If not, I might have to put a safety pin on it. Yes. I'm just going to pull these out so it's easier to pop it through. Stick my cording inside. Once you get past the batting, it should be a little bit easier. Actually, I'm gonna do this. There. Find my middle again. Put my end inside. Push it through as much as I can. Now shake it down. And reach in. There we go. So now I'll just pull this end back. Make sure it's nice and smooth again. And I'm going to tuck this back in. Just hold on to the end. There we go. And I'll do the same to the other side, so just hold whatever it is you're hanging it with and tuck your end in. There. We've got our cord. I think that that's the length that I want it. Just gonna make sure that it's even. And I'm gonna just tie these together. There, so I just tied a knot around the loop. And since I don't really want the knot to be shown, I'm just going to pull my cord until the knot is probably in the middle. Make sure my ends are still tucked in nice and tight. And there we go. So there's an example of what it would look like all hung up. I like that it has the two cords. It kind of gives it a little bit extra. And I made sure that it looks nice and straight and everything's all tucked in nice. So I think you can kind of imagine that you could do this many different ways. If you had a more girly print and some like chain or something and had some really nice bracelets on it. Maybe if you're gifting someone a watch or a really beautiful bracelet, this would be really nice to kind of go with it and just add a nice personal touch. I'm gonna go grab some bracelets and watches that I have upstairs and take a few photos so I can insert those. But I think it turned out really well. It's really quick and it's a great scrap buster for whatever you have in your stash. And yeah, I think it's really cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed this DIY. If you make something like this or have made something like this in the past, make sure to share it with me on Instagram with the hashtag #BecauseI'mCrafty. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe down below and leave me a comment. Let me know what you're making this Christmas season. I hope you guys have a fabulous week, and I'll see you next time, crafters. Bye!